I am Dr. Gautam Sarkar. I am the consultant intensivist of RSV Hospitals, North City Hospitals. I used to look after some of the other ICU also in the city of Calcutta. I am treating my patients for the different ICU for so many years, and today I'll share some of my experience of treating our critically ill patients in the ICU. And you know that the most common problem in ICU, apart from the heart failure, cerebral stroke, or other problems, the infection is the major important factor in the ICU all over the world. And as you know, in our India and in many cities, we are getting a lot of patients, those who are suffering from serious infections, serious gram-positive or gram-negative, mainly gram-negative infections, along with the different types of fungal infections which is coming up in the different ICUs. In fact, most of the tertiary ICUs, those are the treating the most critically ill patients. We are getting more number of patients, those who are suffering from the critical bacterial infections along with some sorts of fungal infections. So today we'll discuss some of the aspects of how we manage our critically ill patients suffering from different serious infection in ICU. You know that normally once we get a patient suffering from any infective background, either from the pneumonia or from the intra-abdominal infections or urogenital tract infections or bones and soft tissue infections, the most important thing in a ICU is that very good and optimal use of the microbiology department, what we most of the time we forget. Microbiology department gives us the most important valuable information that how we'll plan our antibiotic protocols to treat our patients, and the different ICUs they should have a different antibiotic protocols to treat according to their different floras, what we are getting in different bacterial, what sorts of bacteria we are getting in that area, and what are the antibiotics by which the bacteria are sensitive. Most of the time, if we can identify that this is the source of infection, maybe the lung or maybe the urinary tract infection, so we accordingly plan our therapy. Normally, we should send all the cultures of the different fluids, like if it is the lung, we should send along with the blood culture, we should send the sputum culture, and also for the fungal cultures for this bacterial and the fungal cultures for the sputums. And if we can get any pleural fluid from the pneumonia, then we should send it. Or if the patient is suffering from any intra-abdominal infections, we should send. If we have any intra-abdominal collections, we should send it for the cultures. And for the normal urinary infections, we should send that urine culture, midstream urine cultures, at least 2 samples we should send for the both for the routine examinations cultures and the fungal cultures. But once we get the patients in a very critically ill conditions and the patient is already on from the septic shock, then we don't have any time, because in the shock we know that for the myocardial infarction we have to open the blood vessels as early as possible to get the maximum benefit. That's why we want to go for the primary angioplasty to our cardiac STEMI patients. But at the same time, the patients comes with the sepsis and the septic shock. Here is also time is the most important thing. So we have to hard the patient, start the treatment as hard as possible to give that best result to our patients. And you know that previously we have an idea to start with the common antibiotics, what we used to use in for these sorts of infections. We used to start with that, either there is a not in shock, we can start with the amoxiclav, or sometimes we start with the cefoperazone sulbactams and piperacillin tazobactam. These are the most common combinations antibiotics what we are using in our day-to-day practice. But if the patient is in shock, then most of the time we can't wait for these sorts of antibiotics to give them, because the patient is in shock, he is already on need for the inotrope support and fluid resuscitations, and he is in sepsis, and he is in acidosis, he is in lactic acidosis much more. So we have to treat these patients with fluid and other resuscitations. Along with this, the proper antibiotics is most important thing. And as you know that broad spectrum antibiotics is the most common used in these sorts of patients, and most of the common time we start with the carbapenem if the patient is in shock, and we have to give it according to our protocols. Carbapenems is the either imipenem or in the doripenem. These are the most common drugs what we are using in our ICUs. But the most important thing what I want to mention is not only the antibiotics but the proper dose of antibiotics. So that is very important. Most of the time you can see in some of the ICUs the patients are getting ceftriaxone sulbactam 1.5 milligrams twice a day. So this is a very underdosing of the antibiotics. So if you give them the very underdosing of the antibiotics, that is not good for the treatment, and I can say that is the most important neglected part. I should not say it is always we intentionally we do it, but it is our habit. Sometimes we don't calculate that how much is the required dose in which body weight the patient is treating and how much is the optimum dose to give them the maximum for these patients. And so area under the curve is also very important, and the duration of the antibiotics, that is also very important. Suppose for the carbapenems, in how long we are giving that antibiotics, because in some of the places you can find that they are giving the antibiotics in 10 minutes 15 minutes like that, but that will not give us the proper result if you treat that patients without any proper dosing. Suppose the patient needs the 2 grams of the meropenem, CNS infection or serious infections, and we are giving the 1 gram infections. Sometimes we have seen so many areas they are giving that meropenem 1 gram twice daily. In these sorts of things, that is unknowingly we make the bugs resistance to our antibiotics, and we cannot give them the justice to our patients. So giving the antibiotics is very important, but along with that we have to think that what is the most probable bugs behind these infections. So accordingly we have to plan that whether the carbapenems, or if the patient may be carbapenem resistant, so then we have to think something else. Maybe most of the time we are getting so many Acinetobacters, those are the penems resistance, and that time we have, according to the local flora, we can find whether it is the colistin or maybe the polymyxin B. These are the another 2 mainstay what we have in our hands, along with the fosfomycin. Sometimes we use it in our serious infections or the gram-negative infections. So overall what I am discussing, and whenever you give it the proper dosing and proper durations, that whether it should be given continuous infusions around the clock, or maybe you cannot maintain the continuous infusions over 1 and 2 hours continuous infusions by the syringe pump, and then we'll get the proper benefit of the antibiotics to control our infection. And I can say that apart from the European country, however, here the gram-positive infections is little, MRSA is little bit of less as compared to the gram-negative sepsis and infections. So we use it, teicoplanin, we are using the linezolid, daptomycin also we are using, but I can say that except for lines or some implants like that, if you have some implants, post-implant infections, the gram-positive infections are very common, but otherwise most of the time what we are getting either in the ventilator-associated infections or nosocomial infections, most of the time, at least 90% time, we can say that the most of the patients they are suffering from the gram-negative infections. So these are the most commonly used antibiotics, and I should say that nowadays that fungal infection is coming up for the time being, last 2 years, due to COVID conditions. What I can share my experience that in these times, I should say that in the infections rate, transmissions from one patient to another becomes much less as compared to what it was 2.5 years before or 3 years before, because I can say that the hand wash and the patient to patients, whenever you are touching our patients, and the cross transmissions by the health worker professionals, by the nursing staff, by the doctors, by the other staffs in the ICU, that is very important. And though we are saying it on all the important meetings or all the literature, they are saying is the very important part is the hand washing and the proper hygiene maintenance. But maybe in our busy schedule sometimes we forget it, or we don't have that habits to maintain it always. and that make the mistakes. But maybe during this time of COVID infections, as we are bound to go for these things, and we are using our mask, we are using our sanitizers, we are using our hand washing systems, and that becomes a habit to all the health workers, not only in the ICU but also in the outside of ICU, all the hospitals, even in our normal social times. So now I can say that the chances of infections or nosocomial infections what we are getting in our ICU is much less as compared to what it was earlier. Apart from the antibiotics, and if you see that antibiotic dosing, antibiotic proper timings, and start with a hard hit. So once we get a patient in the shock, so we should not wait for the time to get all the reports, and it is not possible because all the cultures will take at least 48 to 72 hours to get the primary culture reports. So we cannot wait, because in septic shock the patients we have to treat hard and early. So in our ICUs, most of the time we start with the PNMs. If we don't think that it may be it is coming from other hospitals, then maybe sometimes, though it is not recommended to give it the colistin or polymyxin as the empirical therapy, we don't give it. Normally we start with the PNMs. And if you think that he has lines or catheters for a long time, or any other source for the implants or like that, then also we start along with the ticoplanin. Also we start with this PNMs in this group of patients. And for the severe UTI, urinary tract infections with multi-drug resistance bugs, we give it our fosfomycin. We keep it as a little bit of reserve drugs for this group of patients, and we are getting the good result in this group of patients. This is the short what we are getting in our day-to-day practice in different ICUs, and these are the basic things whenever we want to treat our patients for any severe infections. We have to be cautious, not only the choosing of the drugs, but that is very important, but at the same time we have to think of the proper dosing and proper durations of the antibiotics that should be infused to our patients to get the maximum benefit. And once we get that culture report, and if we are confident that okay, we have some other weapons which can be used as a de-escalation therapy for this group of patients, I think we should start to de-escalate depending on the patient's clinical conditions. Maybe sometimes the patient is so critically ill and he is coming out from the infection, so maybe sometimes we are a little bit of hesitate to come out from the de-escalations. That is true in practically, though suppose maybe the patient is sensitive to the PNMs and to the cefoperazone at the same time, so like that most of the time I can say if the patient responded to the PNMs, we can't come out of that thing. Maybe the short course is important. This is the in short what I can share my experience, and thank you Biologically Company for their organizing these conversations regarding that using of antibiotics in our day-to-day practice and critically ill patients in our hospitals. Thank you.